September 10th, 1939 begins with a new chapter of chaos and destruction that can never be erased from history. The Canadian citizens ran towards radio channels to hear the new war announcement being broadcast on the radio. As Canada turned into silence, chaos engulfed Germany. Though it was part of the Allies, it still had to prove its worth and fight Germany independently, as this was not just a war on a nation, but a war to defend Canada's integrity. Despite the willingness to fight, Canada was too short on army. Only 45,000 soldiers were dressed up in uniform, full of courage, but yet still not so professionally trained. But how the tables then turn is a mesmerizing part of the history. Now, let's head over to the year 1945. Canada has gathered an army of nearly 750,000 men. Under the leadership of a multinational army, it is fighting on the northern side of Europe and has gained global acknowledgement as a witty and powerful force fighting fiercely with its enemies. But a question raises everyone's eyebrows. How exactly was Canada's army mighty and powerful? How did they participate in World War II? What exact tactics did they use to win against Germany? We will answer all these questions in this video, so stay tuned. By 1944, the first multinational Canadian army was assembled in the peninsula of Europe, operating under the direction of General Harry Crerar. The soldiers, however, were not restricted to Canadian nationality, but also included Polish, Dutch, and British formations as well. But the irony here is that before becoming successful warriors, they were compelled to face a disastrous fate in Asia firsthand. John Osborne, belonging to the Winnipeg Grenadiers, bombed himself, attaching a grenade to his body. For his sacrifice, he was awarded the first ever Victoria Cross of the war. But after a day and night-long fight for 17 days, Hong Kong finally fell to defeat. Over 500 Canadians were brutally murdered, and around 2,000 had to stay captured in prolonged confinement. In the middle of the war, surpassing the year 1941, two Canadian battalions, the Winnipeg Grenadiers and Royal Rifles of Canada, were sent to support the garrison of Hong Kong. During the peak winter time of December, Japan ambushed without any warning. Despite the sudden attack, the Canadians fought back with perseverance. The Dieppe Raid, also called Operation Jubilee, was a major World War II Allied attack on the German-occupied port of Dieppe in northern France. It took place on August 19, 1942. The Allies attacked the German-occupied port of Dieppe in northern France on August 19, 1942. The operation was termed Operation Jubilee. Europe remembers this as the first big battalion that they had to fight and endure for the first time during World War II. The Canadian Infantry Division had to withstand the war, which had to be enemies. The enemy probing operation turned out to be a massacre. A total of 5,000 Canadians participated in the war, and 900 were fatally wounded, and the fate of 2,000 soldiers took them to the prison cells. The Essex Scottish Regiment and Canada were defeated brutally. However, the Germans acknowledged the brave battle from the Canadian side, but also warned them to not underestimate them. Still, Germany provided an unforgettable lesson for the Allied forces. Although D-Day was a successful initiative, it taught the enemies their lesson fair and square. By 1943, the 1st Canadian Army was fighting in the Mediterranean Sea. In December 1943, the Vandos and the Royal 22nd Regiment and the Highlanders of Canada had a knockoff battle. Canada fought face-to-face against the first ever German parachute division. They used a tactic, namely mouse-holing, in which the enemies raid and blast the walls using explosives to evade deadly fire ignited by snipers in the streets. The Canadian Army soon came into the limelight while fighting in Northwest Europe. After days and days of a battalion, Ortona finally came under their occupation. Germany praised their enemies by asserting that although Canada was fighting in a stern situation, they still matched the best on-field soldiers of Germany. On the evening of June 6, 1844, the 2nd Canadian Armored Brigade, along with the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division, reached Allied Juno Beach as a unit. The Canadians fought remarkably and infiltrated the deepest into the region. Brigadier Harry Foster stated, while praising the Canadian soldiers, that while most of the Canadian soldiers have not even participated in a real battle, Most of them fought like veteran warriors. Soon, the famous Falaise Pocket strategic plan began. Now you must be thinking, why is it referred to as pockets? Because the Allies confined the German troops in a closed area. Currie of the South Alberta Regiment commanded this mission and won the Victoria Cross for the team's bravery and authoritative leadership and captured over 300 German soldiers altogether. But here comes the twist. A plan was cooking among Allied forces, and the name of the mission was Battle of the Scheldt. The Allies planned to open the port of Antwerp, which was very crucial for supplying machine guns and artillery, but the port soon became a place of bloodbath. The Germans were hiding in the farmland. They soon flooded the whole farm, and being stuck in the middle of the swampy mud became the fate of Allied soldiers. The German troops soon bombarded the soldiers with machine guns. They still fought tirelessly, hiding under the swampy mud and waist-down water. The number of casualties rose to around 13,000, but their resistance opened the gateway of Antwerp. By mid-1945, the Canadian Army was not only participating in combat, but now was the commanding leader of multinational Allied forces. Under the commandership of General Crerar, the 1st Canadian Army was deployed that was formed with Polish, British, and Dutch soldier formations. The Canadian Army soon initiated the plan to liberate the local civilians of the Netherlands trapped under the detention of Nazis. The Dutch royal family, while honoring the Canadian Army, commented, "Canada's army has become one of the finest armies in the world, producing many exceptional personnel and remarkable commanders." And it is indeed a golden fact, written in the history, that although General Harry Crerar was initially criticized for his tactics, he indeed victoriously produced and managed one of the largest and strongest Allied field armies. Montgomery, while glorifying Guy Simonds, uttered that indeed he is one of the best and most effective commanders of Northwest Europe. The Canadian Army was, in comparison, really limited as compared to Britain and the US, or even the Soviets, but fought fiercely against a single foe audaciously. General Omer Bradley, while complimenting Canada's army, characterized them as enthusiastic and someone that others can depend upon, while Montgomery described them as one of the most proficient fighting warriors in the world. So now let's dissect how mighty and dominant the Canadian Army actually was. It advanced into the war zone, barely prepared, with no tactic or strategy in mind, and had to endure tragic disasters at the locations of Hong Kong as well as Dieppe, but soon transformed into an unbeatable force. And by the year 1944, the Allied forces were endowed with the responsibility of handling the most challenging operations of the war campaign. The Canadians battled and knocked off elite German soldiers in Scheldt, Normandy, and Scheldt, and played a major role in the liberation of the lands of Western Europe. They were indeed not the mightiest force, but their enthusiasm, determination, and adaptability provided them with a status of distinction and superiority beyond their quantity or experience. Ultimately, we can with surety claim that Canada's army was not merely resourceful, but reshaped itself and became unbeatable. Did you enjoy this video and get to know more veiled secrets about World War II? If yes, then comment below. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for more historical facts and amazing videos. Like and subscribe.